Welcome to the Association 4.0 podcast, your association's no-fluff playbook to navigating and thriving in Industry 4.0 or the digital marketplace. Each week, we bring expert insights to help you and your association stay ahead of the curve.
Today, we have the honor of talking with Ken Slaw. Ken is the Executive Director for the Society for Vascular Surgery. I'm here to talk to Ken about how he has implemented some new programs and services that he created during the pandemic and gained some insights on his views on the future of associations. So thanks for joining me today, Ken.
Thank you, Sherry. It's wonderful to be here. Happy to do this with you.
Terrific. Thanks so much. Ken, the pandemic was a challenge, obviously, for all of us, but it also pushed associations to think differently. And I'm interested in hearing how you led the organization through these challenging times, and specifically what new programs or services that you created.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that, all of us have been through something that we have never really been through before, and hopefully we will not have to go through again. From a leadership perspective, I think the most important thing is, when the pandemic hit, we brought everything to a stop to just listen to our members, figure out what was going on, try to base action on fact as much as we could gather it rather than, emotion or to get caught up in the urgency of the situation. So, in the first 2 or 3 months of the pandemic, really reaching out and just listening to what the needs are was really important. Secondly, like a lot of organizations, we streamlined and we determined what's really most important to the core of the mission going forward. And we focused intently on what was most important. And then we increased the frequency of our governance meetings. So we stopped and we listened. And once we learned, then we had more frequent conversations with our leadership about the directions that we need to go. And the last point I would make about the leadership perspective of this is it was a very big priority for me to hold on to our staff. So I put a lot of energy into making sure the staff was okay, that we had the resources to hold on to everybody, because I felt strategically, once we come out of the pandemic, we're going to really need to hit the gas. And if we don't have the staff, it's going to be a struggle to get started again. So thankfully, we were able to hold on to every single staff position that we had. Two things I would just comment on with regard to the question about new programs or services. So, communications really came into the forefront. And so we created the concept of doing town hall meetings with our members to create an open forum between our members and our leadership about what was going on the ground, and for them to ask questions of the leadership. And then I would say our social media utilization, increased tenfold. And
Wow.
we really had to increase our investment in understanding the strategy and infrastructure behind how to leverage social media effectively to communicate and get messages out. And of course, as every association experienced, the impact on education was profound. So we had to pivot our annual meeting from a live meeting to virtual in 60 days, which we did. It wasn't always pretty, but we made it. And I think it was a very, very good event and good experience for all of us. But of course, now, we're trying to return to live, but I think virtual is here to stay. And so we're all trying to figure out now how to optimize sort of the hybrid model or the live plus streaming model. I would also say that during the pandemic, it brought home the importance of really finishing our learning management system and really increasing our foothold on our ability to deliver online education throughout the year on an ongoing basis. So I know that's a really long-winded answer to your question, but I think these are the most critical things that I would summarize occurred over the last 12 to 14 months.
Yeah, that's great, Ken. I think it's very insightful of you and how you led the team, because I know regarding the staff, because I know right now a lot of associations are having challenges with that they reduce staff, and now they're trying to manage things like hybrid. Well, you kind of almost need two sets of teams and extra bodies, and they don't have that human resource kind of bandwidth within their organization to do that now. So I think that was really great that you focused on retaining the staff and making sure that they were good. Can you kind of tell me a little bit more about how some specific things around what you did for the staff?
Well, so obviously we made sure that everybody was settled and supported from a technologic standpoint in terms of working remotely. We really talked with all of our department directors and all of our teams about setting some principles as well as some boundaries around how often they should be meeting and communicating, how they stay in touch, how they stay focused. We increased all of our supervisors' attention and focus on deliverables, objectives and goals, and really wanted everyone to focus on just stay productive, just really be focused on delivering what our members need, stay productive, all the other stuff we normally do, chatting and, socialization, and it'll all come back. But, we wanted to make sure that everybody was just really sort of keeping their eyes on what was most important for the members. We did have monthly all staff check-ins, and so that's another thing I think that was very important. We've been through several waves of sort of depression, anxiety. We've been through lots of different stages together, and just keeping everyone together, relating on a human level, celebrating holidays, bringing people together at least virtually in the Brady Bunch screen, and everybody could see each other. All of those things were really important. And now that we're starting to slowly navigate our way back to the office, I think people will start to get a little bit back more to normal. The sense I'm getting from the staff is everybody's really excited, to come back and start to see each other in the hallways.
Yeah, we had a meeting with another medical association yesterday with a few people, and it was like so exciting to see real people, but not behind the screen in person. So anyway, so that's great. So one of my questions is, has the pandemic experience changed your thoughts about the future of the association industry?
Well, I think in some ways it's actually strengthened the association community. I don't think we need any better example of the need for human connectivity and collaboration. I think that being in isolation, you don't know what you've lost till it's gone. And so I think this really strengthened certainly my resolve. And I know amongst many of my colleagues that, these issues around engagement, these issues around connectivity, these issues around collaborating, sharing resources, doing something bigger, together, I think are all playing to the strengths of associations. And so, at least in that way, I think the pandemic may be sharpening our focus and playing right to our strength as organizations. I think what really is the major change is the oncoming of the virtual component of what we do in terms of education. I don't think there's any going back to live events without some type of virtual component or some type of enduring component going forward. We do not have this figured out. We're going to have to experience this for the next year or two, really talk with our members about what their needs are, what they're willing to pay, how they want access to this information. But I really think, this has brought on the dawn of the online education age. And if there were any associations that were on the bench or on the sideline, everybody's in the pool now. And so we all have to figure out the right mix, balance, pricing, and models for the delivery of live and virtual education to optimally meet the needs of the members. I think, we also proved, at least in my mind, in my staff and in my organization, the staff proved that it can function and achieve at a very high level in a 100% remote environment. Yes, it's not the same. Yes, you miss a lot of sort of hallway, sort of innovative sharing and creative problem solving that occurs when we're together. And it was not easy to replicate that, and it is not easy in a Zoom environment. But all of that aside, when I went into the pandemic, I was a very big proponent of you need to be in the office all the time. And as an executive director or CEO, I've softened. I've really seen how productive the staff can be. And I think the right mix and blend now is going to be for us requiring everyone to circulate into the office, a couple days a week, maybe 3 days a week. For those that want to, they can do more. But to let people sort of attain the balance in their lives that works for them, because I'm convinced now that they can be productive, they can achieve. So, for me, that was a real learning event. And I couldn't be more pleased.
Yeah, so Ken, with the work that I've done, most of my career has been on digital strategy. And I've always told people we need to provide people with information how they want it. And especially as generations, change and all those, or, need things differently, and new generations want things differently. And so it's always been, I think, a real challenge for associations to provide content and information the way that a person wants it and that individualized experience. And now we're headed into, I think, it's even a little more challenging, because we'll always have people that are either the introverts or are just great. I talk to people, they're like, well, I love just being able to go to a meeting or attend a meeting or do Zoom meetings. And then there's people that are like, I can't wait to get back to face-to-face meetings. Mm-hmm. So we've also, we were able to adapt last year, but now we've set also at those expectations of, the organization can deliver in these different ways. And or, as you said, kind of the enduring materials, like, okay, well, I have something this week or I'm on vacation this week, so I want to get the content later. And I think everybody's really struggling with that. Like, we all know we can do it, but like you said, what is that best model? And I've seen organizations, they're trying to do hybrid, or they're recording and then they're running the virtual meeting a couple of weeks later. And like you said, pricing models. So I think we'll all be navigating this for the next at least year, 18 months, if not longer, to see, what's going to stick and what's not. But it is actually, I think, a positive and kind of some exciting times, because as you said, those that were on, the sidelines have had to kind of jump in and try and be able to produce online content.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's best to think about the next 12 to 18 months as we're all going to be doing a lot of piloting and testing and evolving of our organizations. And I don't think there's any going back. We're going to need to sort of find, how do we optimize the live event for the group of people that want it? How do we optimize the streaming, or the virtual components to those that want it? And, by the way, we had many, many hours of discussion, within our organization, lamenting the fact that, with vascular surgeons, not everyone can go to a live event because somebody's got to stay home and take care of sick people,
Right.
that need surgery. And so we've often had conversations about what would be our strategy to reach them all every single year so that nobody's feeling disconnected, and, I think the answers are emerging now. I mean, when we did our virtual annual meeting, we reached far more people all over the world than we would at a live event. And we need to pilot and test and perfect these models and solutions. But I can certainly envision a day where, for the SVS, where we have 6,500 members, 4,000 board certified vascular surgeons, every single one of them can be engaged with our annual meeting every single year. No one's going to feel left out. And so I think that's a very positive development once we figure out how to optimize it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what other challenges or disruptions do you think is on the horizon for us?
Okay, so I think a couple things here are important. Relevance and visibility, I think, for associations is going to be a growing challenge. And maintaining our uniqueness with so much competition from so many different corridors, that we're faced with. So now that we're in the soup of social media, now that we're in this sort of larger ocean, there's education everywhere. There's value everywhere. There's people in the for-profit, nonprofit world, all that want a piece of sort of people's attention in this broader soup that's been created. And so I think it's going to be a very important challenge for associations to brand themselves effectively and maintain relevance, visibility, and really stress the uniqueness that only they can provide. I think that social media itself has become an incredible challenge for associations. We're living through a live in the moment culture in the organization. You have to be careful about everything you post, everything you say. Virtually anything that you do takes on a life of its own, and so I think another big challenge for us all is really developing social media strategies and management practices that optimize the tool for good rather
Right.
than not good. And I think that's a big challenge. And then I think the third one I would highlight is, we've touched on a little bit, is I think we're going to have to figure out what the new normal is at work, at the office, and, what those new work cycles are going to be like, and what the support systems are going to be like. And I don't think we're going to be back to normal for another 12 months or so, and even then, I think our models are going to have to be more flexible in order to retain our staff and make sure people are maintaining the balance that they need. You mentioned earlier, one of the things the pandemic has done is it's pushed our work days, from 7.5 hours to 15 hours.
Yeah.
I'm on calls at 6 a.m. I'm on calls at 7 a.m. I'm on calls at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. It's really sort of stretched the boundaries of how we work. So all of that is going to have to evolve and get normalized, once we sort of return our flow back to a normal work.
Yeah, I think everyone was like, "Oh, this is great. We can roll out of bed and have our have our pajama pants on and get to work." And that has kind of worn off, I think. I know that when I'm in the car now, it's like, oh, I've got 30 minutes of listening to my music or a podcast or something, and being on a commute is almost refreshing. That we hated it a year ago.
Yeah, there's been lots of stories of I rolled out of bed, I was on calls at 6 a.m. I didn't get a chance to even shower till 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Our cycles and our routines are just all messed up, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to sort of redesign that going forward.
Yeah, with my team, I started looking at everybody's calendars, and I was like, guys, because I kept hearing, we didn't have time for lunch. I'm like, schedule it in your calendar. Don't let somebody block your calendar just because you're sitting at your desk. But yeah, but you have to be very, especially in that remote environment, very diligent about that. Or I started actually scheduling meetings for 50 minutes instead of an hour. So we weren't going from hour to hour, but it's a challenge, an ongoing challenge. And as you're right, we've got to, start to make some shifts here ourselves. So what do you think are some opportunities that we should be really focusing on over the next several months?
That's a great question. So, I think first and foremost, and I know this is a little bit maybe different or off the beaten path a little bit, but I really think the greatest opportunity that we all have right now is to invest significantly in the next generation of member leaders that are coming up. Every one of us have early career or younger members. They know what to do with a lot of the challenges that we're facing.
Mm-hmm.
We need to put them in a position to influence our cultures, our organizations, our strategy development. We need to engage them more. And so I really feel like, given the challenges that we're going to be facing over the next couple of years, rather than struggle to have to relearn how to build the wheel of the future, I think we have to put more confidence and more opportunity in the hands of our younger members to really help us shape the future. So that's number one. I think this is like prime time to bring in your younger members and to talk about the future together. Number two, what I would highlight is, and I mentioned this before, we've all realized that you can do more with less, but you can never do it optimally. And so I think we're entering an age where thinking much more strategically about collaborations across societies, across resources, across industries, to solve some of our biggest problems is really ripe for evolution and optimization over the next 3 to 5 years. We're not going to be able to address diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're not going to be able to address in our field, access to healthcare issues or population health without really broad coalitions with lots of different organizations contributing intellect, resources, and coming together. And so I think we need to start to get out of these siloed models and really start to perfect how to think about our biggest problems and challenges from a multi-association, multi-society perspective. And then lastly, when you go through things like this, it forces you to rethink the way that you relate to a lot of your partners. And we've been doing a lot of rethinking about what our relationship is with our industry, sponsors and with other vendors and other groups that we partner with. And so rather than just approach those relationships, from a marketing and promotion perspective or from a sponsorship perspective, we've really tried to turn the entire ball on its side and try to engage everyone that supports us in mission work in the society. Always keeping an eye on, the morals and ethics and not crossing any lines. And I've really been struck with having gone through this pandemic, this human tragedy together. There are plenty of people in industry and in the vendors that we work with that share the same missions, that want to contribute in a positive way. And so we've really tried to be creative about creating new ways to engage them in really important work that makes a difference. And it really has invested them in our organization in ways they weren't before. And most importantly, great things are being done for patients and for physicians and for our members. So those would be the three biggest opportunities that I see on the horizon. Get your young members involved, start collaborating and sharing resources to solve big problems, and look at partnership and sponsorship from new strategic angles.
Yeah, that's great, Ken. I think it did kind of, the pandemic gave us the opportunity to really start thinking differently, right? So, and I think these are some things that a lot of organizations are starting to rethink how they've done things in the past. So I appreciate those points. So what do you think is the most important thing that leaders can do right now to position their organization for success?
I think very simply, be present and visible for your members. We're not out of this yet. Again, this is an opportunity for us to lead, to be present, to be very much visible to our members, to listen. We need to have the strength to adapt and evolve now. There's no going back to the way things were. We have to adapt and evolve if we're going to survive. And so I think we have to really be comfortable with change and understand it's sometimes messy, it's sometimes not perfect, but there's no way forward without evolving and going through change and change process. I would say to reallocate resources to the new horizons of the future. As we went through our budgeting process this year, we did a lot of this. We started thinking about moving resources from traditional, historical legacy programs to where we think the future is going in order to start to build capacity and infrastructure. And so nothing gets done without resources. So you have to align your priorities and your resources to actually move the needle. So I think that's going to be very important. And then, as I emphasized earlier, hang on to your talent.
Mhm.
There's nothing more important. So do everything that you can to really hold on to the talent that you have.
Those are some great thoughts, Ken. So lastly, my last question for you today is, do you see association business models changing?
I think they've changed. So now we have to figure out how to optimize them. And so I think we're in an era of all associations are going to have to offer more choices. We're going to have to offer members more choices on how they engage, how they receive information, the way that they want to, the way they desire it, as you mentioned earlier. As I mentioned, I think we have much more competition. So we have to become much more focused and really understand what can we provide that nobody else can, and just really, be the best at that. We need to make our members, have that FOMO feeling, the fear of missing out, that if you're not here, you're really missing something, very, very important in your career development. More collaborations, as I said, to share and stretch resources. None of us have enough resources to do what we need to do, but if we combine forces, we probably do. And so I think that's really important. And lastly, just like our models have to evolve, I think that we really have to evolve our thinking about innovative program opportunities, and to get out of our comfort zone and sort of work in areas that we've never worked in before. I'll give you one good example that we had the opportunity to start working on a supervised exercise therapy app. In terms of the consumer education market. When people have restrictions in their blood vessels in their legs, they often, this is mostly for the elderly population, they have leg pain, and they can't walk and they can't do a lot of their daily living functions. And rather than jump right to doing surgical procedures to try to open up veins and arteries, what evidence shows and what research shows is that before you do anything, we need to get these folks walking and just see if we can, have exercise open up new blood flow. And you could avoid, any of these other procedures. And so a lot of people don't have access to care. And so we created a phone app that can be prescribed by physicians for their patients, where they can do a 12-week course of supervised exercise therapy with coaching, just like Peloton. And we've been piloting this. I mean, this is not something that a medical society, right, would normally do, but we've been having fun partnering with a little bit with Apple, a little bit with other IT experts, and how to develop this. Some really creative, innovative minds. We've been through 2 pilot phases of this now, many hundreds of patients that have been through this. And it looks very, very promising, as a wide scale population health solution to get elderly folks who are having these symptoms walking first before they have to undergo any kind of procedure. So, these are the kinds of things that I would encourage all of your listeners, don't just put these ideas to the side and say, nope, that's not us. That's not our traditional role. What are we doing in consumer healthcare? That's Apple, that's Google. No, it doesn't have to be. I think, we need to be in this game and we need to be innovative and creative about, how we approach what we're doing.
That's great, Ken. That's really exciting. That sounds like a great product, and I can't wait for you guys to be able to launch that and see that come truly to fruition. It's really exciting.
I would like to just talk to you about one other program.
Oh, sure, of course.
Which I just think is, again, it's a good model. We noticed about 3 years ago that, and there was a lot being written about the degree of wellness challenges and burnout amongst physicians. And of course, the pandemic didn't help this at all. If physicians and surgeons were burnt out before the pandemic, they're burnt to a crisp right now, coming out of the pandemic. But this is another good example of, what's the role of associations or societies in really addressing member needs on something like this. And so we created a task force to do the research with our members to really find the trigger points of what seems to be burning them out. And many of the things, of course, are advocacy policy things that we can work on, but we don't control, like EMRs and pre-authorization, the things that are burning them out. But when we asked our members, what specifically do you want the society to do for you to help you with wellness and burnout? What they said is, can I just have someone to talk to who understands and cares? And so that notion led to the development, I think, of the first in the country, maybe first in the world, medical society that has developed a customized wellness coaching program for its members. And so we selected 18 of our vascular surgeons and raised the funds to put them through an extensive certified coaching program so that they're becoming certified surgical coaches. And then we're making their services available to our membership so that we'll have a pool of trained, certified vascular surgeons who can do wellness and surgical coaching and take on members who need someone to talk to, who understands and cares and what they're going through. And so this is just another example of, opportunity knocking, really asking members what their needs are and what they're looking for, and being able to deliver, a solution for them. So we're launching this program in the fall, and be happy to follow up with you on how it goes. But this is really another example of how you not only address their clinical needs, but you can also address their career and even their personal wellness needs as a society.
That's amazing, Ken. That'll be a great program for your members, and I think it is obviously very much needed today. As you said, it was needed before, but even now they've got so much pressure and stress and everything else that has happened over the last 18 months. And that's fantastic. So I would definitely want to hear how that goes, and we'd love to follow up with you in the fall.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you as always. It's always delightful, and, call me anytime.
Thanks so much, Ken. We really appreciate your time and all of your insights, and hope we can talk again soon.
Terrific. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and discovered tips and information that will add value to your leadership style and your association. orgSource specializes in positioning teams for success with solutions for technology, strategy, and marketing. please contact us at info@orgsource.com or visit www.orgsource.com to find out how to keep your organization on track to Association 4.0.